My name is Nicole. I'm 32, a freelance financial accountant living in Chicago. For 6 years, I've been the spine of an entire family, and not once has anyone asked if my back ever hurt. My mom, Lorraine, retired early after a knee surgery, but still spends money like she's running a luxury spa chain. My dad, Stanley, lives comfortably in his recliner with his Bose sound system thanks to the heart medication I pay for each month, over $450. He has a heart condition but never bothers to look at the medical bills because I set up automatic payments from my personal account. My younger brother Brandon is 30 and pursuing a music career in Nashville, which really means sitting at home editing audio all day. 2 years ago, he called me in the middle of my workday, voice choked with tears, saying his girlfriend's dog got hit by a car and they needed $1,100 for emergency surgery. I wired it in under 20 minutes. Not a single thank you after that. I don't live with them. The family lives in a 3-bedroom house in the Aurora suburbs of Illinois, a house I bought under their names after Lorraine cried during a family meeting, sharing her dream of owning a place before turning 60. They didn't contribute a single dollar. I lived in a tiny rented studio on the west side of the city, nearly a 45-minute drive away, where I alternated between using the space heater and the electric stove to save on the utility bill. On holidays, I brought the turkey, the pumpkin pie, even the red wine my dad prefers. But if I arrived late, they ate without me. Mom would say, "Work must have held you up again, Nicole." It wasn't an attack, just that cold kind of comment that makes you feel like you're always falling short, no matter how hard you try. My mom's side of the family often called me the successful one at Easter or Christmas, but successful just meant I had money they could ask for. I once paid $3,800 for my aunt's daughter's final semester after she was denied financial aid. They promised to pay me back. They never mentioned it again. Whenever I suggested reducing or stopping a support payment, Mom would look at me like I'd just dropped her off at a nursing home. Once, I told her I couldn't keep paying Brandon's car insurance. She placed her hand on her chest and said, "Do you want him to die if something happens?" I did try to step back. One time I missed a scheduled transfer. Guess what happened? Brandon sent me 3 words. "What is this?" No greeting, no punctuation, just a blunt demand. I used to believe that giving was love, duty, family. But over time, it turned into a strange system where I was the interest-free bank, the emergency contact, the excuse for everyone else to avoid responsibility. Once, I had the flu so badly I couldn't sit up. I called Mom, just wanting to hear her voice, hoping she'd ask, "Do you need anything?" Instead, she said, "I'm watching a movie with your dad. Text me later," then hung up. No call back. I used to think that if I just kept giving, one day they'd appreciate me. But the more I gave, the more it became expected. No one asked how I was living. No one remembered the day I filed my taxes late just so I could cover Dad's medical bill. No one knew I had to take out a short-term loan last month to finish paying Brandon's kids' summer school fees. It all added up. But I still smiled, still sent flowers for Mom's birthday, still bought Dad new Nike sneakers every Christmas, still sent regular transfers into the family fund on the 5th of every month. Until the day everything burned down, and I, soaked, freezing, homeless, and with no one to call, stood on their doorstep and was turned away like a stranger. I remember that day clearly. It had been raining steadily in Chicago since early morning. A fire alert popped up on my neighborhood app at 3:47 p.m. Just one line. Police and fire crews are responding to a blaze at an apartment complex on Greenview Street in the Rogers Park area. I jumped up from my desk when I saw the attached photos. It was the building I lived in. I drove back with the irrational hope that I might salvage a hard drive or a few important documents, but by the time I arrived, the entire 3rd floor, where my studio apartment had been, was nothing but a charred wooden frame, blackened and smoking, standing under the rain like a skeleton slowly falling apart. The police said it started in the unit next door, an unattended pan of oil. I had nothing with me. No clothes, no laptop, no documents. My phone battery was low. My wallet held exactly $38. and I was drenched from head to toe in my work clothes. I sat in my car for over an hour, staring at the smoke still curling upward. I didn't cry. I didn't have the energy to cry. I just kept asking myself, where can I go now? Only one name came to mind: Mom. I called. She picked up after 3 rings, her voice calm, unbothered. "This is Mom. My apartment just burned down. Can I stay at your place for a few nights?" Silence. Then a long sigh. "Nicole, this isn't a homeless shelter. You're an adult. Handle it." I thought I misheard her. "Mom, I just lost everything. I just need a few days. Get a motel or call one of those charities you donate to." She cut me off. "Mom, it's me. Yes, and you chose to separate from this family. Don't come back just because something went wrong." I could hear a TV in the background. A news anchor talking about gas prices. No panic, no one crying for me. Just my mother, standing in the house I bought, telling me I wasn't allowed in. I drove there anyway, not because I hoped, but because part of me needed to see the truth up close. It was already dark when I pulled up. I parked along the curb, looking at the familiar 2-story house with the red roof peeking through the trees. The lights inside glowed through the windows like warmth I could no longer reach. I knocked. My mom appeared, wearing a cream-colored satin robe, fresh lipstick on. She didn't open the door fully, just stood there, half hidden behind it. "I already told you, this isn't a hotel." I stood there soaked, shoes squishing with every shift of my feet. "Just a few days, until I figure something out. I have nowhere to sleep tonight." "It's not my problem, Nicole." Her voice wasn't loud, just cold. I glanced inside. My brother Brandon was sprawled on the couch, remote in hand, headphones on. He glanced at me once, then looked away like I didn't exist. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I sent Brandon $900 last week to cover his overdue phone bill. And now you're trying to trade that for pity? Mom snapped, eyes unblinking. I stepped back. The rain lashed harder against my back. "It's not pity, I just..." "Figure it out, Nicole. I'm closing the door now." The door didn't slam. It closed with a soft click of the lock, but it hurt more than any slap. I sat in my car a while longer, the engine off, phone nearly dead. I shivered from cold, hunger, and a hurt that had no name. No message from Mom, no call from my brother, no concern from anyone. Everyone stayed quiet as if none of it involved them. Only when the car windows started fogging up for my own breath did I finally see things clearly. I no longer had a home, not because my apartment burned down, but because the place I once called family had never truly been a place to return to. And in that moment, I knew, for the first time in my life, I had to protect myself from the very people I once called my own. I rented a single room in a budget hotel near Union Station. The kind of place that smells like bleach-soaked carpet, with wrinkled curtains and an AC unit that groans like it's dying in its sleep. The front desk didn't ask where I came from or why I had no luggage other than a scuffed leather bag. I paid with my emergency credit card, the only one not linked to my family's endless expenses. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, but in my mind, every number, every bill, every transfer, they all played back like a ledger I knew by heart. I opened my laptop, connected to the sputtering Wi-Fi, and did something I hadn't dared to do in 6 years. I cut off their financial lifeline. I logged into my main bank account, the one where I'd been depositing $2,200 every month into the family fund to cover the Aurora house, my mother's car payments, Brandon's utility bills, and all those sudden emergencies they never seemed to handle themselves. I deleted every single scheduled payment, canceled the secondary card linked to Mom, stopped the automatic car payment for Brandon. The 2020 Nissan Altima I financed under my name, but never once drove. My hand trembled for a second when I deleted the line labeled "Groceries for Mom, $380 per month," not out of fear, but out of relief. Then I checked the credit card statement. The 3 backup cards I'd issued for emergencies only had racked up charges at Starbucks, Amazon, and DoorDash just in the last 3 days. Nothing for medicine. Nothing for basic necessities. I froze every one of them. The confirmation screen popped up. Account deactivated. No further transactions can be processed. It was 2:47 a.m. I lay on the hard hotel bed under a thin blanket, with parking lot light leaking through the blinds. I didn't sleep. I wasn't scared. I just felt quiet. A kind of quiet I hadn't known since the day I started helping. By 6:10 a.m., my phone started buzzing. 1 call, then 2, then 9. By 7:45, I had 52 missed calls. By 8:12, the number hit 69. Brandon, 19 calls. My mother, 21. My aunt, the one I'd helped cover her husband's hospital bill last year, 6 calls. The rest were texts, some masked as concern, most laced with entitlement and veiled threats. Not a single one asked where I was, not one asked if I was okay after the fire. The first message came from Brandon. Way's the card locked. The next from Mom. Nicole, rent hasn't been paid. The bank called. Nowhere did it say, "Are you safe?" No one asked if I needed a place to stay, if I was hurt, if anything had been salvaged. I put the phone down, unplugged the charger, and turned off all notifications. They didn't miss me, they missed the money. An hour later, I reopened the spending tracker I'd maintained for years, each entry carefully noted, every date marked. The total came to $139,260. Part of me once believed that if I documented everything, if I proved I loved them the right way, they would eventually see me. But no, they only cared about the total column, not the name beneath it. My phone buzzed again. A FaceTime call from Brandon. I declined. A minute later, a new text lit up my lock screen. From Mom. Final warning, if you keep causing trouble, I'll get a lawyer involved. I let out a soft laugh. Not bitter, not sad, just awake. It wasn't that I'd been too invisible for them to notice. They had deliberately not looked, so long as I kept functioning, like a well-behaved ATM. I didn't reply. Instead, I reopened my laptop and navigated to the emergency trust account I'd quietly established years ago for family crises, something Mom never knew about. I transferred full control to myself and revoked all access. The screen displayed a final confirmation. Are you sure you want to remove user Lorraine_M? I clicked confirm. The room didn't get brighter, it didn't get quieter, but I did. And for the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel guilty for keeping what was mine. I sat quietly in the hotel room, the yellow light from the bedside lamp casting a dull glow across the ceiling. Outside the window, Chicago rain continued to fall in a soft, steady rhythm. My old laptop rested on my lap, heating up slowly, almost as if it could sense the rising tension in my chest. I reopened the spreadsheet, the only one I'd ever kept to myself, the one no one in my family had ever seen. Every financial contribution I'd made over the past 6 years appeared like tiny, precise paper cuts. Clear. Undeniable. March 2nd, 2021, Walgreens, blood pressure meds for dad, $164.75. July 21st, 2021, Mike's Pre-Wick for mom, $299. September 12th, 2022, transfer to Brandon, lost job suddenly, $2,000. I scrolled to the bottom. Total $143,820.47. I clicked save, then exported it to a PDF and named the file. What I paid in exchange for silence. I didn't send it right away. I opened a new email and began typing in the addresses. Steady hands, no hesitation. Pastor Walter, the one who had me speak at the winter fundraiser, praising me as a daughter who sacrifices for her family. Aunt Evelyn, the one who called me cold-hearted when I declined to chip in for Grandma's 80th birthday party. My paternal relatives, people who never checked in but constantly forwarded me GoFundMe links for urgent situations. And finally, Brandon, my mother, Lorraine, and the man who never spoke, my father, Stanley. I wrote plainly, no rage, no insults, just facts. Clear as the hallway light exposing cracks no one wanted to admit were there. Dear all, for 6 years I stayed silent. I believed if I kept carrying the load, someone would notice. Below is a record of everything I've spent for this family. Medications, housing, tuition, hospital bills, and countless emergencies. I never asked to be paid back. I'm not sending this to demand repayment. I'm sending this to reclaim the voice I've lost for far too long, so no one can ever again say I'm ungrateful or that I abandoned this family. Sincerely, Nicole Holt. I attached the PDF, double-checked every email address. Then I just sat there. Not clicking send yet, just staring at the button like it was a doorway, one that once opened had no return. I got up, splashed cold water on my face, and when I came back, my phone was flashing again. Brandon calling for the 34th time. I let it ring out. I clicked send. 3 hours later, my inbox exploded. Aunt Evelyn replied first. If this is true, then shame on all of us. I had no idea you carried this much. Then Pastor Walter. I'm sorry I believed what they said. If you need support, the church is always here. And then my mother. No apology, just one line. What the hell are you doing? You're humiliating this family in front of everyone. Brandon sent a blank email, no subject, no message, just an attachment, the internet bill showing a declined payment. I laughed, out loud, for the first time in weeks, not out of joy, but because I had just flipped a table they never imagined I'd even dare to touch. That night, I checked out of the hotel and moved into a new place, a smaller room on the south side of the city. No fancy amenities, but it was safe. No one knew I was there. No one knew the room number. I turned off location tracking, changed all my bank passwords, and set my primary phone to only receive texts from saved contacts. The next day, I got a message from an unknown number. Nicole, Mom says she'll hire a lawyer. You should rethink things before this goes too far. Kayla, the daughter of my cousin, the one I helped when she didn't qualify for student loans. I blocked the number. No more anger. No more explanations. I sat in the small rental room as the ceiling fan spun slowly above me. The damp spring air crept in through the cracks in the window frame. My laptop rested in front of me, open to the Facebook account I hadn't touched in nearly a year, just to check one thing. And there it was. A long post, nearly 2 pages, publicly shared by my mother Lorraine, accompanied by a photo of a burned-out house. The bolded headline read, "Our family has lost everything." She wrote about a home destroyed, about years of sacrifice and betrayal by a cold-hearted daughter who turned her back on her blood. Below the post were hundreds of shares and dozens of sympathetic comments. Can't believe her daughter would do this. Heartbreaking. Hope she realizes her mistake. 2 people give birth but never raise a heart. I scrolled to the photo section. One image showed the whole family, my mother standing in the middle, Brandon with his arm around her, both smiling, in front of the ashes. Without me. No one asked who took the photo. No one knew I was the one who bought that house. Not a single sentence mentioned I had been the only one paying for home insurance, keeping that place alive. I sat still for a while, then opened my old inbox, the Gmail account I used for all property documents. I typed the key words, beneficiary-homeowners-policy-Aurora. One email popped up, from All Land Mutual Insurance, dated March 15th, exactly 3 weeks before the fire. Subject line, request to change property beneficiary Holt residence. I opened it. A PDF attachment. The first page read, request to update primary beneficiary from Nicole Holt, Brandon Holt. Below that, my mother's signature and the cosigner, Brandon. No notice sent to me, no confirmation needed, nothing. I checked the timestamp. The request had been submitted 19 days before the fire. and it was processed right after I had extended the policy for another 2 years using my personal credit card. They both knew that. This wasn't just ingratitude, they had deliberately cut me out of ownership, then acted surprised when I walked away. I printed the document at a nearby copy shop, carefully highlighting the key sections, then took a photo of it with my phone, attached it to an email, and wrote, "I wasn't abandoned after the fire. I was erased long before the flames began." That evening, a message popped up from an old college friend. "Alex, hey, what's going on? Saw your name mentioned in your aunt's Facebook post." I simply replied, "Every story has two sides, but they only posted the one that benefits them." Then I visited a local Facebook group my mother was active in, Aurora Neighbors United. Her post was pinned at the top of the group, along with a plea for help. Below was a GoFundMe link started by Brandon. Campaign title: "A fresh start for the Holt family." Goal: $25,000. Raised so far, $17,860. Posted 3 days ago. I clicked on the campaign updates tab. The latest entry read, "Thank you for supporting my mom and brother after my sister abandoned us at our lowest point. They deserve a new home, free from someone who only sees dollar signs." I closed my eyes for a moment, not from pain, but from pure disbelief at how smoothly they had orchestrated this narrative. I saved the entire campaign, screenshotted every comment and donation, and placed them in a folder named Proof of Erasure. They hadn't just used me, they had replaced me with a more compliant version, a fictional daughter who stayed silent, never pushed back, and only knew how to wire money. I reopened my expense spreadsheet and added one last entry. April 14th. Martina, Carolyn, and Lindsay's children. Diarrhea occurring less often, use of the bathroom less. And typed a note beside it, "My worth isn't in the numbers, but it's because of those numbers they believed I didn't deserve a place in the family." I didn't fight back online. I didn't post a rebuttal. I stayed silent and documented. Every line, every receipt. Because one day, they'll forget the words they used, but me, I'll have it all on record. That evening, just as I lay down on the rock-hard mattress in my tiny room, there was a knock at the door. Not polite, urgent, pounding knocks, like someone angry and too impatient to wait. I got up and looked through the peephole. It was my mother, Lorraine. She stood there, holding a worn beige leather purse, her face frozen, eyes burning with a fury she didn't bother to hide. I cracked the door open slightly. "What are you doing here?" I asked calmly. "We need to talk right now." I said nothing, just opened the door wider. She stepped in like she owned the place, without glancing around, without a word of greeting. The dim lighting in my room made the lines on her forehead more pronounced. No tears, no genuine emotion, just well-rehearsed rage. "You really think what you did was right?" she snapped, voice sharp as steel, "putting everything out there online, emailing the whole family? You've disgraced this family." I leaned against the desk and crossed my arms. "You call that disgrace?" She narrowed her eyes. "People are talking. Even the church knows. You've made us a laughingstock. Brandon can't access the funds. Your father got declined at the store. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for him?" I pressed my lips together, trying to keep my tone steady. "You know what? I once went 3 days without food because I paid off Dad's medical bills. No one knew, no one asked. It was just me, quietly figuring it out. And now you're here to talk about the humiliation of not being able to pull out cash?" She went silent for a few seconds, then rolled her eyes. "You act like you're the only victim. Every family has issues. But you betrayed the people who gave you life." I stepped forward, picked up my phone from the table, and turned the screen toward her. It displayed Brandon's GoFundMe post. This is betrayal? I asked softly. They called me the one who abandoned the family. They collected thousands of dollars off strangers' sympathy without a single mention that I was the one who bought that house, paid the insurance, fixed the roof, and held the title until 3 weeks before the fire. She didn't look at the screen. She looked at me, as if still hoping I'd cave. But I wasn't the daughter who nodded through Thanksgiving dinners anymore. You went too far, Nicole, she said, voice trembling for the first time. No matter what happened, we're still family. I nodded slowly, but my eyes didn't waver. Family, huh? Then tell me, why did you change the beneficiary without telling me? Why did you leave me standing in the rain when I needed a place to stay? And why, right now, are you here? Not to apologize, but to guilt-trip me. She pressed her lips into a tight line. The silence between us grew heavier. Then she turned away, unwilling to answer. I funded your reputation for 6 years, I said evenly. Not with gratitude, but with bills and wire transfers. But starting today, that ends. If you want dignity, you'll have to pay for it yourself. He turned back, voice bitter. You've changed. You never used to be this cold. I took a deep breath. I didn't change. I just stopped apologizing for not being Brandon. Her face froze for a moment. Something flickered, anger, pain, or realization? I couldn't tell. But then she picked up her bag and walked toward the door. Keep living in your little fantasy world. Someday you'll realize who the only one that still cares about you is, she muttered, not looking back. I didn't reply, just quietly shut the door behind her. It didn't slam, but something inside me dropped and never rose again. I sat down on the bed and exhaled, not victorious, not heartbroken, just lighter. I'm sitting alone in a small cafe on the corner of Belmont, my usual spot to escape the noise of my rented room, when the front window shudders from a sudden gust of cold wind. And then I see Brandon walk in, followed by a woman in a long coat with hastily tied hair. It's Kayla, my cousin's daughter, the one who once texted me to reconsider after Mom threatened to get a lawyer. I was about to get up and leave when a voice behind me stopped me in my tracks. Nicole. Wait, it's me. I turned. Megan, Brandon's sister. 2 years ago, she borrowed $5,000 from me to start an online shop, then disappeared. And now here she was, standing in front of me, looking gaunter than before, dark circles under her eyes, but with a faint trace of familiarity in her gaze. I know I have no right to ask for anything right now, she said as she pulled out a chair without waiting for an invitation. But I need to talk. I crossed my arms and leaned back in my seat. Then talk. She looked at me for a long moment, then reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. These are the hospital bills. For Lila. I don't have insurance. Her voice cracked. I've tried everything, but it's not enough. I need help. Just this once. I looked her straight in the eyes. Not angry, not cold, just clear. You saying just this once sounds a lot like when Mom said just a few months' rent. Like when Brandon said it was an unexpected car repair. Like when Aunt Evelyn called me heartless for not paying for her birthday party. It's never just once. It's always a chain that never ends. Megan clutched the envelope tighter, her voice trembling. But this time it's really urgent, I swear. If we don't pay, they'll stop treatment. I bit my lower lip. I'm not heartless. I once held Lila when she was just learning to walk. But I also remember Megan's face when she ignored my call last year, when I told her I'd lost a major client and needed a little help for a few weeks. She'd just read the message and never replied. I took a deep breath. Lila isn't at fault, but I can't keep being the ATM everyone counts on just because they assume I'm the backup plan. Megan lowered her head, her voice barely audible. I get it, but you're the only one I have left to ask. I paused for a few seconds, then slowly pulled out my phone, opened a link, and handed it to her. This is a list of free medical aid programs in Chicago. Phone numbers and addresses included. I already called one. They'll walk you through the paperwork. If you really need help, start there. Megan looked at the screen, then looked at me. You're good at things. Good at doing it all on your own. Good with money. But being this good at saying no, doesn't it feel lonely? I pressed my lips together. No, actually, this is the first time I feel like a person, not a tool. Megan didn't say anything else. She just left the envelope on the table, stood up, and pulled her coat tighter. If things work out, I'll let you know. I nodded. I hope you actually start living responsibly, rather than counting on bottomless kindness. She walked out without looking back. I opened the envelope. Inside was a copy of the bill, $2,740.56. I slipped it into my bag, not to keep it, but to remind myself compassion shouldn't be used as a loyalty test. On the way home, my phone lit up with a FaceTime call from Mom. I hit decline. Seconds later, a message from Brandon. Megan said, "You didn't help, not surprised. You're not family anymore." I didn't reply. I don't need to prove where I belong, because for the first time in years, I understand clearly I wasn't pushed out of the family. I walked away because I'm done paying for a place I was never truly given. And this time, I've learned how to say no without having to apologize. 2 weeks after the meeting with Megan, I moved into my new apartment, a small studio on the third floor of an old building in Edgewater. No elevator, creaky stairs, and a kitchen just big enough for a single hot plate. But the lease had my name on it, Nicole Holt. And for the first time in years, I didn't have to ask anyone, "Is it okay if I live here?" I set the last box down on the wooden floor, dropped to the middle of the room, and exhaled. Not from exhaustion, not from stress, just relief. Like I'd finally found a dry overhang after a storm that had lasted too long. On the table was a white envelope stamped from a community financial organization called Women Rise. I had applied for a job as a financial advisor for women re-entering society after crises. My background was simply too practical to ignore. I opened the letter and read the bolded line. "We are thrilled to welcome Ms. Nicole Holt to the role of financial advisor. We believe your experience is not only valuable, but a guiding light for other women." I let out a soft laugh. They called me a light, even though most of my life I had been treated like a hidden wall outlet. Always there, always available, but rarely acknowledged. I folded the letter and placed it next to a small cactus on the windowsill, the only plant I'd ever managed to keep alive through a winter. That evening, I dug into my old backpack and pulled out something I'd hidden away, a half-written, unsent letter. I had written it on a sleepless night back when I still thought everything could be mended with kind words. Dear Mom, I used to believe that if I was patient enough, things would change. That if I gave enough, you'd see I wasn't distant. I was just trying to live with integrity. I stopped mid-sentence. Those were things I once believed, once prayed for. But now I knew. Some things no longer need to be said. Some relationships need to be laid down. Not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. I burned the letter in an old metal bowl. The flame didn't flare up dramatically. It burned quietly, reducing the paper to clean ash. Through the window, a soft yellow glow from the neighboring building spilled in. I heard a bike bell down on the street. The wind carried the smell of pastries from a nearby shop, and the chilly March air made me pull on my hoodie and step out onto the tiny balcony. I pulled out my phone. No missed calls. No new messages from Brandon, from Mom, or anyone else in the family. Just one email from Women Rise, confirming the time of the orientation, Monday at 9 a.m. I opened my calendar and added a note. Day 1 of a new chapter. No one gets to define it but me. I looked down at the street below, people moving with their own stories, their own scars, their own hopes. Then I looked inward. Empty hands, a bank account no longer impressive, but a mind calmer than it had been in years. I wasn't rich. I hadn't succeeded by my family's standards. But I knew where every dollar went, what boundaries I had drawn, and what steps I had taken to leave. The next morning, I got out of bed at 6:30, brewed a cup of green tea, and powered up my laptop. I began drafting the first lesson for my workshop, Personal Finance and a Woman's Right to Decide. The first slide I typed read, "You're not selfish for keeping your money for yourself." I didn't know how many people I'd help, but if even one person, just one, looked at me and realized they didn't have to be someone's walking wallet, then all the years I had lost wouldn't be for nothing. That night, before going to sleep, I wrote a single line in my journal. Not to vent, not to remember anyone, but to affirm what I had just done. I once loved them enough to carry the whole family. Now I love myself enough to let go, and for the first time, I don't feel guilty for it. I closed the journal, turned off the light, and slept soundly. No dreams, no waiting for an apology that would never come. Just peace, whole, and entirely mine. Nicole's story is a powerful reminder that kindness should never be treated as an automatic obligation. In real life, many people quietly sacrifice, hoping to be recognized, only to be met with silence and demands. When Nicole dared to set boundaries and refused to keep carrying the weight, she didn't just reclaim control of her life, she proved that love does not mean enduring without limits. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't forgiveness, it's letting go and moving forward for yourself. What do you think about Nicole's choice? Would you have the courage to do the same in her situation? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, real-life stories about family.